Nick Adams is the Chief Operations Officer at WP Buffs and a regular speaker at conferences throughout the United States and Canada. A Connecticut native, he now lives in New York with his wife Amy, where he also studies business strategies and organizational management. Today, he'll explore how supporting customers can help you with everything from growing a network of advertisers to increasing your MRR. So let's get started.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm the COO here at WP Buffs. And today I'm going to be talking about the importance of customer support and how it can help you build the MRR for your business, and also how it allows you to increase prices and increase your sales team. So, this is called Supported Customers Are Paying Customers. I'm going to give you a quick background about my history at WP Buffs and how things have changed in my 3 years here. In summer of 2017, I was hired as a happiness buff. We had about 90 sites and 3 developers. A happiness buff is what we call customer support. We've also recently changed that name to happiness engineer, and our developers are now called WordPress engineers. In the fall of 2017, we hired another happiness buff. So things were starting to go, and we really needed another person to help cover a different time zone. And so I became the lead happiness buff as I trained and oversaw this new person and this starting of this team. At that time, we had about 100 sites and about 4 developers. So we added a third happiness buff in spring of 2018. And at that time, we had about 150 sites and 5 developers. So things really started to grow with the business. And one thing I will say is that both of those people that I've mentioned here that were hired in fall of 2017, which is Lorraine, and spring of 2018, which is Dean, both of those people are still with us today. Dean has moved on to be the head of customer success, and Lorraine is still part of that happiness team. So then in fall of 2018, we added a customer success buff role, and that's really what Dean's job turned into. And we also added a marketing buff role, so we actually started to have a real sales and marketing team. And I became the COO at that time. And we had about 250 sites and about 7 developers. And then from 2019 to 2020, our customer base has really continued to grow, and our support team continues to grow. And so we've kind of gone from being a very horizontal company to a little more vertical. We're now within the support team, within the developers. We have some leadership there within the happiness team. We have still a lead happiness buff, and then we now have a customer success team. So Dean actually has a team now that he's leading. And so now we have about 700 sites. We actually have over 700 sites. And so we have 4 support team members, so people dedicated entirely to support, and then 13 developers. Now, those developers are also part of the customer support team. So in total, we've got about 17 people all doing customer support. So I just want to talk about how our pricing has changed, because this is one of those interesting things I'm going to bring up a few times about how our customer support model has really allowed us to also increase our prices, which has a great impact on our MRR. So in summer of 2017, when I started, our prices were $40 for our lowest level plan, which is the maintain, and then $80 for our middle level plan, which was the perform, and then $120 for the perform plan pro. Now that's changed a little bit since then. And so the next spring in 2018, we also upped our prices a little bit. So we grew our team, and we were able to provide even faster 24/7 support. And so that also increased our costs, but it also allowed us to increase our prices a bit. So we jumped up from the maintain, went from $40 to $50. Perform became $100, and the Perform Plan Pro became $150. So you can see these prices, each one about a 25% increase, which at the time was huge. And it was really just something that having good customer support allowed us to keep a lot of customers. We saw really not a whole lot of churn with any of these price increases. And then in spring of 2019, our team had really started to grow. You'll remember at this time now we have two whole new teams. We have the marketing team and the customer success team. And so now with a growing company and a lot more support, and way more 24/7 coverage. So really, people are getting faster answers than ever. We renamed the plans a little bit. So the maintain stayed the maintain. And that went up to $67 a month. And then the protect went up to $147. Now that was formerly called the perform plan. And then we switched a little bit about what was included in it, and we also made sure that the name really mentioned what was going on, where the protect was really about security, adding security and edits. And then the perform plan pro became the perform plan because that one was about performance and speed optimization. That one went from $150 a month to $197 a month. And like I said, we actually didn't really see much churn at all, very few cancellations. And so that's showing that really from summer of 2017 to spring of 2019, the way that our prices had gone up, and those are our current prices now, really were also matched by the value we were bringing. And so we were able to maintain those customers at this time because we made sure that customer support did not decrease. We actually just kept increasing it and providing more value. But also in scalable ways by having a nice customer support system that was efficient, but also personable and friendly to all of our customers and helpful. It really allowed us to increase those prices. So when you see we jumped, about 50% on pretty much every plan in those times, it's really been incredible and had a positive impact on our MRR and our lifetime values. So here's my first point. You need customers to make money. And I'm sure I know exactly what the very first thing you just thought was. Duh. Of course, you need customers to make money. No businesses really are making money without having some kind of customer, whether that's a direct customer or business to business, whatever your industry is. You need those customers to make that money. You need that income. But that's the thing is customers help you grow. They're on your team. One thing that I see a lot is that people tend to grow a bit of an adversarial relationship with their customers. They kind of see the customer as trying to take something from them. They're trying to either take our product or take our time, trying to get extra discounts. But the truth is that the customer is on your team. They're on your side. Once they've bought in, they want you to succeed probably just as much as you do because they need you to succeed so that you still have a company who's there to provide them with support and additional products or additional services. So your customer is a part of your team, and they can help you grow. And so you really want to support them so that that part of your team is also supported and continuing to grow. Because that part of your team, as you're going to see throughout this presentation, isn't just somebody who you sell to, but they're actually somebody who helps you out to grow your team and helps you to sell. Acquiring a customer is what a lot of people think of. They think that business is all about the art of the sale. You need to make that sale. You need to get them signed up. And sure, that's important because if they don't sign up, they're not on your team. But that's just the first step. There's so much more that needs to go into this. If you're really going to grow your monthly recurring revenue and your annual recurring revenue and your bottom line in the end. If you want to grow this business, you're going to have to move beyond just acquiring them to keeping them and making them a part of your team. And one thing to keep in mind is that new customers are more expensive. I'll elaborate on that a little bit more, but that's just something to keep in mind is that yes, acquiring them is a great step, but that's also where you're least likely to make your money. It's actually really more about keeping them. So another point is good support can fix any issue. I have so many examples from within our own business where an issue has come up and having great support has allowed us to move beyond the situation with that customer. And those customers who may have had an issue at the beginning or at some point are people who we consider not just our customers, but our friends, people who we interact with and maybe see at word camps and other conferences. And we built a relationship. Uh, but the first thing to remember is that no business or product will ever be perfect. I'm sorry to tell you, no matter how much you work on your business, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be times when something goes wrong. That happens to every business, everywhere. I mean, it doesn't have to go wrong for you every week, but at some point, something's going to go wrong. So you need to be ready for that. Just an example, do you remember the iPhone antenna issues where at one point there was a version of the iPhone that came out, and if you held the phone in a certain way, you could actually short out the antenna and then you just lost signal? So Apple actually had to ship out free cases to people who had that phone because they needed to be able to hold their phone without it losing signal. And so the solution there was just to take care of their customer and say, you know what, we messed up, but here's a solution, and we're not going to ask you to pay for it. We're not going to try and blame you or tell you you need to do something different. We're going to own it, and we're going to make it right. Do you remember the bending iPhones? Yeah, those ones where they were the big ones when they first came out. You could put them in your pocket, and if you sat down for a little while, the phone would actually bend. Um, that was a real issue. But I bring these up not to make fun of Apple or anything, but to point out that look at the iPhone. Probably at least half of you who are watching this, if not more, probably have an iPhone sitting next to you right now. Or some kind of Apple product. It's probably more than 50% have some sort of Apple product near you right now. Maybe you're watching on a Mac, or maybe you're watching on an iPad. The point is that, yeah, Apple had these issues, and those aren't the only issues Apple has had. But the thing was, they stepped up with their customer support. They took care of their customers so that people stuck with them and realized that Apple is looking to make it right. They're not looking uh, to leave their customer hanging when something goes wrong. Uh, when an issue happens, how you respond determines how your customer feels. So it's not just the issue that determines how they feel, but it's also your response. So that's something to keep in mind, is that even if a customer is really frustrated when they first contact you, if you respond in a way that lets them know that, hey, we're all on the same side, we're working together, we're going to get you taken care of, they're going to have positive feelings. Sure, they may never completely forget that happened, but they'll realize that, yeah, that was just an issue, and this awesome team helped take care of me, and we're in this together. We're making this work. So that's really the importance of having a good support team. And so I just want to encourage you to think about issues your customers have and have a support strategy ready. Think about things that have gone wrong in the past, maybe for one customer, maybe for multiple customers, and think about how can we have a support strategy ready. Try to be less reactive and a little more proactive. Try to think of a strategy so that when it comes up, you don't have to figure out how will we fix this. You say, this is how we fix this. And you can just have that ready for your entire support team. That's huge, because the faster you can provide support, the happier people are going to be. But also just the less you have to focus on fixing every issue when it comes up, and instead making sure that you have a system to fix the issues. You see what I mean? Where that is kind of taking away the manual time spent and instead working smarter instead of harder by having a strategy ready. So think about that. Think about issues. Think about things that have gone wrong. Think about things that people complain about. And if it's happening to multiple people, now's really a time when you need to have that strategy ready, and even try and thinking about a proactive fix. Try and fix the issue. If it's a product or a problem with your service, try and fix what's wrong with that. And remember that your customer is not complaining just to complain, most likely. It's because they want this to work, because they want to have a good experience. So I'm going to tell you about our support philosophy. It really boils down to empathy and expertise. So here at WP Buffs, those are two things that we teach every person when they're going through their onboarding. We tell them about how empathy is so important. So I'm going to start with that empathy. And just remember that every customer is a person with feelings. Every person has these feelings that happen when things go right and when things go wrong. And when things go wrong is really where we start to forget that the other person has feelings. Sometimes people forget that a customer support team is people with feelings. And so your customer may come at you a little aggressive, but remember that that person is having feelings, and most likely that person is frustrated and scared because when things go wrong, it is frustrating and scary. They're most likely frustrated that this isn't working, that they're spending a lot of time trying to do something that it was supposed to do when they signed up for your service or for your product, and they're not feeling like they're getting that. But it's also scary because they've already laid down the money. They're scared that they've put out this money that they're not going to get back. And so think about it from your customers' experience and what they're going through, and just try to have some empathy. You want to treat that customer with empathy throughout the entire experience. Even if they come at you pretty angry, as long as they're not being abusive, you want to, instead of pushing back, you want to allow yourself to understand what's happening, and you want your entire team to understand how this person is feeling. They're most likely saying the things they're saying out of their response, their emotions, based on what's happening. And so the next thing, though, is you do want to remember that you are the expert. So you want to have empathy, you want to understand, and you want to get to know what's happening with them, but you also don't want to just give in to everything just because you think that that's empathy. That's actually not always helpful because you're the expert, whether it be your product, your service, or maybe you're a WordPress expert and your customer is not. You want to remember that as the expert, you also need to guide people. You want to use your expertise to guide them to a solution with care. So you want to take that empathy and then take your expertise and kind of mix them together. Learn from your customer what exactly is the issue. What are you feeling? You can ask them, what are you feeling right now, to help them. If you're in a conversation with them and you just need to ask them, like, what are you feeling? How can I help? Beyond just giving you an instant answer and then sending you away. And you want to guide them to a solution, because maybe what they're saying is, your product doesn't do the thing I want. And maybe you have to explain to them through your expertise that what you want is not possible, or what you want is actually not what's best for your website, or your business. And so you just want to be able to explain to them with empathy and with care what is happening, how you're going to solve the issue, why there may not actually be an issue, and you're going to guide them to a solution. Because you need to remember that the customer is neither right nor wrong. So that sounds pretty ridiculous. But the thing with all interactions with customers is that nobody wants to be wrong. Nobody wants to tell a support team, oh, I totally messed up, I didn't know how to use your product. But also, your support team most likely doesn't want to be wrong and say, yeah, this is our issue. And that's one of those things you have to remember, is that the customer is neither right nor wrong in every situation. Most likely, it's always going to be a mix of both, just as your support team in your company is also neither right nor wrong in every situation. Most likely, it's some combination of both. But nobody wants to be wrong. So you need to kind of lose that mentality of the customer is my enemy, and also lose that mentality of the customer is always right. That's something that's drilled into a lot of us. I know that that's really going away in business, which is probably good. Because the customer is always right is not sustainable. If every time a customer comes and says to you, your product sucks, I want a refund, and you just say, okay, here's your refund, here's a couple of things that are wrong with that. One, your team has probably put in a little bit of time by the time they've asked for this refund, so you're out that time spent to your customer support team. But also, you're losing this customer, and you're losing not just the revenue you had already made, but you're also losing future revenue by just saying, you know what, you're right, we suck, here's your refund. What you want to do is instead realize that because neither of you is completely right or completely wrong, that what's important is understanding the issue. You want to find out, okay, well, why do you think our product is the worst? What makes you think it doesn't work? And understand that they may be wrong about some of it, but they may also be right. So don't immediately assume that whatever they say isn't working. Don't assume that therefore it is a problem, but also don't assume that it's definitely not. You can find out a lot by understanding the totality of the issue. And then you can learn from every interaction. Some interactions are going to go well and some are not. That's just the fact of the matter with customer support and sales and really everything in life. Nothing is going to be 100% perfect. Nothing is going to be 100% the worst, because even if you have this terrible interaction where somebody just completely rips your product and says how awful you are, threatens to sue you, threatens to post negative reviews, what you can learn from that is what went wrong. Like, not just what went wrong with the product, but what went wrong in our interactions that they feel like we're this bad. But then also, learn from every great one and say like, okay, great. We had this awesome customer service interaction where this person contacted us and said they were having this issue. We helped them solve it. And then they said, oh, you're amazing. You're my favorite company ever. You still want to learn what also went wrong from that. So you want to learn a little bit of the right and wrong all the time. You want to find out what led to this interaction happening in the first place, even if it was positive. You want to find out, why did this person have to contact us to tell us that there was an issue? So just keep on learning, because your customer support is your reputation. Right or wrong, your customer is going to talk about you. In customer reviews for the top companies, the thing that comes up more than anything else is the customer support. That's also the case for the bottom companies, the companies that no one wants to work with. Sure, people may say the product is great, or they may say the product is awful. But what they're often also going to say is the product is great and I had great customer service. They're going to say, when I thought I had an issue, they helped me understand. When I did run into an issue, they had it fixed up. That's why they're so great. That's why I'm sticking with this company and why I'm always going to buy their products. And then on the other side, you can have a great product, but if you have terrible customer support, if an issue comes up, or if somebody just has a question, they get terrible customer support, their entire idea of your company is going to be negative, because people will tell other people how your customer support is. They're going to post reviews, but they're also going to tell people in person. If somebody's talking to somebody in a Facebook group about WordPress, about they're telling somebody about this product that they use, they're probably going to also say, and I talked to their customer support team, they were insert how it went here. And that may influence whether those other people are going to buy your product or not. Bad support can also ruin a great product. You can have a great product and somebody maybe misunderstood something and they contact you. And if you give them bad support, or your company gives them bad support, that can completely ruin it. Because who wants to buy a product that's very poorly supported? Because sure, maybe it works great the first time, maybe it works great the first 20 times. But what if that 21st time something goes wrong? Or same with the service. Maybe months 1 through 17 are great, but month 18, we run into an issue, and then all of a sudden we have a terrible customer support experience, and then all of a sudden the entire thing just feels like, oh, this is awful. This company is really not that great. And so your great product, your great service can be overshadowed by poor customer support. Good customer support reduces churn. That one is just something that we have found to be extremely true, because it's not uncommon for people to talk about wanting to cancel for things that are completely outside of our control. They may say, oh, well, I have to cut back on my finances. I have to shut this website down, this business down. But we found that our good customer support actually reduces the actuality of that happening. We focus a lot also on our lifetime value, and that's an important metric that I want to encourage you to think about. Um, in reducing your churn, you're going to be increasing your lifetime value. You don't want customers who just sign up once, or customers who buy once or cancel their renewal. You want people who are going to stick with you for the long haul. And that's because new customers cost more. I said that earlier. And what I mean by that is, for most products, the time when somebody's going to contact customer support and put in support tickets and ask you for help and say that things aren't working are usually going to be right after they buy. So yeah, you've just gotten their money, but you're also possibly going to lose all that money. Even if your product is or your service is great, you may lose all that money that you first made from the initial sale. And that's because you're going to have to walk people through. No matter how good you think your docs are, no matter how good you think your system or your user interface is, there's a decent chance that your customer is still going to have some questions. And then when it's a service, that's absolutely the case, because most likely there's going to be some service involved by your team, or there's going to be software that you're paying for, or servers that you're paying for if you're providing like software as a service. And so most likely you're paying something out, and in that first time after they first sign up is when they're most likely going to cost you money. So you need people who give you a long lifetime value, because what you're going to see is your MRR is going to increase some, but what you're going to see is that your margins, your actual net revenue after your costs and everything, are actually going to keep growing even faster than your MRR, because the longer people stay with you, the more money you're going to be making, because they're probably going to cost you less. And good support reduces churn, and so increases lifetime value. Now, those are inverse metrics. It reduces churn through building a relationship. You don't want to stop going to a family member or a friend who's helping you out with something and just say, okay, you don't want to say, I'm done with you, I'm going to go to someone else. And that's the same with, if you build a relationship with your customers through good customer support, then most likely, even if an issue happens, they're going to want to work with you to figure out a solution, rather than just saying, okay, I quit, I'm done with you. And good customer support also builds your sales team. So what I mean is that those people that I'm talking about that you've built a relationship with, they're going to talk about you. I mentioned that before, and I'll say it again. All the time we have people who come into us, they did not see our marketing, they haven't seen any of our ads, they haven't seen our emails, they didn't find us on Google. They found us because somebody said, oh yeah, I use WP Buffs for my website, that's who you want. And that's so awesome, because that's somebody we didn't have to pay for, who's now on our sales team. Remember when I said that your customers become a part of your team? They also become a part of your sales team if you're doing things right. They're going to tell people that they should sign up for your service. They're going to market for you. So you want to let your customers become your raving fans. The raving fans are the ones who are going to preach to other people about why they need you. They need your product. They need your service. You really want that, because you can't grow a sales team nearly as fast as you can by growing your raving fans. Your customers, if they become your sales team, that's how you're going to grow your team. And also, that's way more cost effective. Hiring 10 new salespeople is obviously going to cost you a whole lot more than hiring 2 salespeople and then having 8 or even 20 customers going on to their friends about why your customer support is so awesome and why signing up for your service is going to be so great. Good customer support can sell more products and services than any of your marketing. So when you're thinking about what you're going to do to sell more things, and yeah, you're going to think about ads. I'm not saying don't do ads. I'm not saying don't have a marketing team. You want to have a good marketing strategy, but also remember that customer support is a part of that marketing strategy. And so that comes to this final point. And the whole point of this talk is that good customer support builds your MRR. Think about that. Good customer support builds your MRR. That's why we're all here. We are literally at the WordPress monthly recurring revenue virtual summit talking about our MRR and growing it. And that's where customer support comes in. Because when you have good customer support, you're continuing to sell more of your products. You're continuing to sell more of your services. And then you can charge more. You can have a better profit margin because the value that you're providing through your customer support makes it worth it. You don't want to take advantage of people. You don't want people to have regrets. You want them to feel like even though you've upped your prices by 50% in a year and a half or 2 years, that they're still getting a great value. That's how you build their lifetime value. That's how you have people who stick with you for several years. People who keep paying, people who don't even question it, people who say, heck yes, I'm glad that I renewed that 17 times because this company takes care of me. That's what's going to build your MRR. Thank you.
Alrighty, Nick, that was fantastic. I loved all of that information. Super easy to understand, super straightforward, and incredibly valuable. I hope all of you found that as helpful as I did. If you have not already, go ahead and leave your questions in the Ask a Question area, and Nick and I are going to answer as many of them as we can starting right now. Nick, thank you so much for being here today and for taking some time out of your day to answer questions with us. Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so our first question, it looks like we just have the one, but we do have time for a few more. So if you're watching, you have a question, now is the time. So the question is, how do you scale your support with the business?
Yeah, so that one's always like a tricky thing because the thing that seems obvious is, oh, well, you just keep adding more and more customer support people as you grow your customer base. But it gets to a point where that's actually not what you want to do. And so you want to start looking at ways you can systematize things more. And so using automated processes whenever possible, so that not everything has to be manual,
Right.
is great because people don't always want a manual response. Sometimes they're perfectly fine with just getting the info that they need right away, even if that comes from an autoresponder or part of the form that they fill out to get support. And so that really just helps a lot with scaling, is just making sure that you have good systems in place so that less and less has to be done by people while still giving people exactly what they want, the support that they need, and a little bit of that personal touch.
Nice. All right, we got two questions that just came in. So,
All right.
first one, how do you choose what plugins to use to support WordPress sites? So, I guess we can maybe make that a little bit more specific as far as like what plugins maybe do we use at WP Buffs that help us to provide that support?
Yeah, so the decision process first comes along to what's going to provide the most value. So we look at that and we figure out like what issues are we dealing with, but also what issues are our customers dealing with, that we really want to provide to them. And so we look at those and see, what's the issue and what's the plugin trying to solve. And then we start, when we have multiple that do that, we start looking at, again, how does it scale? Is it something that's going to take a lot of manual time, or is it something that's going to run on its own? And of course, we're always important for us is making sure that the team behind it is also providing good support. So if you are a plugin company and you're watching this, make sure that your support is providing good support, because you don't know what people are supporting somebody else with your help. And so that's really that decision making process, is how well is the plugin made, and then how well is it supported.
Fantastic. Next question. Do you have any tips for growing the business without compromising quality?
Yeah, absolutely. I think more than anything, it's always remember what you would want if you were the customer.
Yeah.
So in that case, you're going to want to look at that from the customer's perspective, because sure, you can grow the company and be really lean and spend as little money as possible, and never hire people, and provide only the bare essentials. But at the
Mhm.
same time, that's how you end up with that churn, kind of like Dean was talking about yesterday. And so that's just something you want to keep in mind is how to make sure that as it's growing, you're still providing that same quality. And so that's where those systems come into play. And also just those essentials of provide the right support that people want. Look for the
Right.
problems that you need to solve for as many people as possible. And
Absolutely.
then, I'm sorry,
No, go right. Go ahead. Go
then,
ahead.
and then just look to automate as much as possible without taking away any quality.
Absolutely. All right. We actually have two more. So I think if we can answer them a little bit quickly, I think we can squeeze them in before we have to go.
Okay.
Next question is, how do you handle dealing with both support and production? So I think I'm not sure how we can speak to this given that we don't produce, like we don't build sites at WP Buffs, but is there anything that you can speak to within that question?
Yeah. So I mean, definitely we're looking at the difference between supporting so when people have issues and also helping them maybe add something new. And so
Mm,
that is things that we try and balance in that we want to give the best answer. So, if somebody's saying, well, I'm having this problem, we take a quick look and say like, well, is actually your issue that you think you have a problem that actually is just a matter of you're looking for something that you're currently not set up to do, and then we can move them over.
right. Wonderful. All right. So the next question is maybe we can tease what's something new on the WP Buff service roadmap. Is that anything that we can tease?
Um, There are a couple things I can't talk about right now,
Okay.
but what I can say is that we're always looking to improve, and
Okay.
so some of the biggest changes is that we haven't even fully publicized on our website is that we're actually just getting everything set up to be able to provide staging sites for every single site
Mhm.
that we manage, and that's something where we're always looking to add value and looking for that problem to solve, and that was the problem that we needed to solve was
Right.
how do we get good reliable staging sites that we can manage for anyone with a site.
Awesome. So we do have one more question, and let's do like a 5 word answer. Security is important to everyone. What security plugin would you recommend?
iTheme Security Pro.
Perfect. I love it. Alrighty. If we did not get to your question, please tweet it at us. Nick, where can people find you to be able to tweet any more questions that they might have?
Yep. So my Twitter is Nick Adams TV. And so just tweet at me and use that WPMRRVS hashtag, and I'll keep an eye out.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nick. And I'll
Thank
see
you.
you around Slack.
All right.
Bye
Thanks.
bye.